this is a very powerful statement, and it's one of the natural law. Actually, it's real. It's the truth. This is a fact. This is a very powerful fact that kids will do well when they can. Your children will want to please you. Your children want to make you happy, mommy and daddy, especially mommy. In whatever you always say, mommy, I love you so much. Mommy, are you happy? Mommy, are you happy? You know, especially those with older children, you may notice your children always, sometimes they hold your face and say, mommy, are you happy? Mommy, I love you. All right, because to them, right, mommy, especially if you have been working very well with them, your happiness is very important to them. So our children, it's just natural law, it's just normal for them. And if they cannot do well, right, it's up to us adults to figure out why, so that we can help. If our child is not growing well, for example, if our child is not eating well, it's up to us to figure out why. Perhaps we are too pushy, perhaps we are too careless, perhaps there's so many perhaps lah. And I want to bring everything that we have shared, including our children's personality, the love tank. Daphne's talk about growth, and Katrina talk about food, and Charmaine talk about baby wearing. All put it together Today we are faced with a very, very gigantic situation, very difficult situation that is not faced even 10 years ago. Our environment has changed so much. The way we parent our children has changed so much that parents today have a really more difficult time with their children today. And what is this big change? This big change is called screen. Yeah, it's called screen. The inability of the children to direct their focus away from their screen because something expected. Look at this pandemic, the children have to attend class online, so they are faced with the screen all the time. And you can say that, oh, no choice lah. And I have parents who tell me, oh, they are on the screen all the time, so I feel so bad, so I let them play games. They're already on the screen for so long, and then you feel so bad, you let them play games, and then you intensify or you extend the screen time, which actually plays a lot of havoc in their brain. Okay, it changes the brain wave, changes the brain patterns. Yeah, so the top 4 findings on kids and gadgets use. The first one is having TV in the bedroom is a risk factor for obesity, and none of us want our children to be obese. Okay, it ties in with what Katrina talked about. Yeah. Number 2 is screen time during meals is especially harmful because your children do not realize that they are eating. They do not even know what they are eating. They don't even enjoy their food, or they don't have this. They don't develop the skill to identify what food to eat and what food not to eat. And by the time they are 12 years old, or by the time they are adults, we are going to have a group of young adults who have no skills in eating at all, and therefore they will be met with a lot of health problems. Yeah, they have no skills in identifying what food is good and what food is not good, and this can cause them to have a lot of health problems. And remember, health comes first, then happiness is easier to achieve. Then number 3 is 60 minutes of recommended daily physical activity is often not met due to gadget use. Just 60 minutes of physical activity. And today, if you go to the park, you see people walking in the park, but with their phone in front of them, and they were just walking. That is not, that creates this function or disunity between the brain and the body. The body is in motion, but the brain is focused on the screen. And therefore, the brain cannot identify that the exercise is being done, and therefore it cannot change certain chemicals to help your walking to produce certain chemicals that can help you build muscles. Okay, these are all very technical, but it's what is found. And then number 4, food choices in children are influenced by media consumption. The packaged cereal over the homemade breakfast. Of course, we all know that children prefer all this than to mommy's cooking sometimes, but that is highly, highly strongly influenced by what they see on TV and on screen on YouTube, which is actually specifically formulated to keep your child addicted to the screen time. Yeah. So what screens do to the body and the brain? Because of too much screen time, the brain cannot shut down. And when the brain cannot shut down, the child cannot sleep. And then he keeps thinking, and when you go over a period of time that you cannot sleep, the brain, the dopamine, and the cortisol and all works together. And the only solution for them is sweet things, is sugar. Sugar is actually 8 times more addictive than heroin. And therefore, you might notice children who ask for formula milk, who ask for milk before they sleep because they are addicted to the sugar in the formula milk, okay? Or into anything, or they wake up to look for food. And this causes an increase in weight. And this increase in weight again causes a brain dysfunction. And it causes the next day the lack of energy and no battery, and therefore they start failing in school. Remember, one of the things that fills up the child's love tank is succeeding. But when a child continues to fail, it's very, very difficult. All right. Recently, I have a friend who told me, because he said, I come up with a plan, and in order to help the child, she promised him more screen time. Okay, it doesn't make sense. And when they start failing, they start acting up. Okay, they start acting up because failing is a very negative emotion, is a very negative experience. And therefore, this child is going to grow up into a teenager who will act up, is going to grow up into a teenager who will basically hate his parents. Because why? In some part of his brain, although he cannot identify it, he recognized that his parents have not done the right thing to help him succeed. I know it sounds painful, but it's real. Okay, I have spoken to a few teenagers, and when we really ask them, what is it that actually helps, that actually, if you think is part of your failure, he just says, because we were not given the opportunities. And a lot of teenagers blame it on their parents. So there's a new recommendation, and this recommendation is not that new. It came out in 2020. Okay, the last time they all say that, no screen time before two years old is ruled out, because experts understand that they say no screen time before 2 is not possible. It's not going to happen. So because they recognize it's not going to happen, parents will still give the children screen time. So they give you better recommendation. 18 months or younger is basically totally no screen time is best. But I've seen children as young as 3 years old being exposed to screen time. The exception is live video chat with family and friends. That's different. Okay, and then 18 months to 2 years old, limit screen time to and avoid solo use. Don't allow your child to have solo use of the screen time. For example, Jenny is sitting there with her baby. A baby is looking at the screen, but Jen actually is not recommended. But if it's because it's a human being, and if I'm a family member, it's okay. It's an exception. Okay, but because I'm not a family member, so Jenny should try to avoid that as much as possible. Then from 2 to 5 years old, to limit screen time to an hour a day. But you know that 2 to 5 years old are spending about 5 to 8 hours a day. Okay, and parents should watch as well. We know that's not happening. Okay, and then 6 years old or older, you have to place consistent limits on the time spent on the types of media. Don't let screen time affect sleep, exercise, and other behaviors. And there are a lot of parents who say, okay, they trust a certain channel. For example, YouTube for kids. YouTube for kids should be trusted. They say it's for kids. But recently, there are many awareness that comes out that there's a lot of predators, a lot of insidious bad people, criminals who actually goes into YouTube for kids which you are not aware of, and they put in their messages, bad messages, pedophiles, into the YouTube for kids. And parents who actually say, oh, it's okay, it's YouTube for kids, it's very safe. You have to be very, very careful that it's really, really not that safe. So having said all that, that's just a bonus portion for you to actually make a decision on what sort of relationship do you want with your child in 15 years time, because what you do today matters. The decision that you make today matters. It's very, very difficult. I really understand, and I'm very glad that I don't have to go through that. My children, the youngest is also 20 years old already, and I'm thinking that if I have small children today, will I be able to stop them from the screen time? And my answer is I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I can do that as well. And I know that it's going to be difficult, but we all have to work together. How do we work together? By reminding each other, by giving the support, by helping each other to remind each other to minimize things that can really affect your relationship with your child in 15 years time. Once you're married, once you have a baby, who's the most important person in your family? The answer, may I suggest it to you? It is your partner. The correct answer is your partner, your spouse. So if daddy is listening to this, the most important person in your family should be your wife. And the wife who's listening to this, the most important person should be your husband. If both of you put each other first, not your children, seriously, not your children shouldn't be the most important. Your children are on loan to you. And while they're on loan to you, while you're taking care of them, you just do your best. But remembering that your relationship with mommy, with your husband is more important than your children. Okay. So your children do not need parents who are perfect. They don't. None of us are. If they want parents who are perfect, all of us fail already. Okay? They just need parents who are present. And once you're parents, yeah, your marriage matters more, not less. Because now there are other small little people counting on you. They are on loan to you. You're supposed to bring them out and then release them out. They don't belong to you forever. But while they are little, they are with you. The most important thing that you can do for your children is to stay married, to work on your own relationship, to love each other. And if you have to fight fair, while all this while loving each other, and then you will have done your best for your children. Trust me, universal law, natural law. You love your husband, husband love your wife, your children will be okay.